All right, welcome to week 5 of the Tanya Summary Shiur. Honestly, last introduction, I tried this before. It was like 30 seconds. I didn't like that. Let's just jump right in. Until now, we're talking about the tzaddik and the tzaddik v'tevle and the tzaddik v'rale, tzaddik gomer, tzaddik she'eni gomer, the rosh v'tevle, rosh v'rale, etc. Now we're saying there's the guy that's right in the middle, or the girl or whatever, right in the middle. The Beinoni. The Beinoni is the key focus of Tanya. The key focus of this part of Tanya at least. It's called Sefer Shel Beinonim, and it's called Sefer Shel Beinonim for a good reason. This Beinoni will be the main character until chapter 53, until we start Sha'ar HaYichud VeHaEmunah. What is a Beinoni? So we're saying a Beinoni is someone that the bad that is within them is not strong enough to conquer the person, to the point that their thoughts, speech, or action should be influenced to actually doing something wrong. Now, to be clear, a person can think something, or this Beinoni could, let's say, have a spontaneous bad thought, but they won't entertain the thought. The idea of a thought coming to the forefront of a person's mind is something which is involuntary. It doesn't come from them. It's not a choice that they make. The choice that they make is, do they keep on thinking the thought, or do they not? And a Beinoni will always push away the bad thought. There's no avera that is done in thought, speech, or action by the Beinoni. Now, there is the godly soul of the Beinoni, and the godly soul isn't necessarily ruling. There are specific times in which we would say that the godly soul is ruling the Beinoni, like when they're saying Kriya Shema, which is when they're meditating on godliness and things like that. At that point, their godly soul is awakened, and they have a burning love, a love burning like fire, and it extends all the way to their heart from their mind, which, as we mentioned before, the godly soul mainly takes up its residence in a person's mind, but when they're meditating on godliness, they're able to affect their heart, and their heart will be burning with love for godliness, and therefore, their godly soul will be, as it were, in complete control. But after a person is done davening, this feeling, this burning love, etc., it all dissipates, it all departs, and the Beinoni goes back to being a regular person. And as a regular person, they have their godly desires, to be fair, but they also have worldly desires. They're almost, in a sense, they're a completely regular person, that they have full-fledged desires for worldly things. Not like the tzaddik that we said before, that the tzaddik to varying degrees is disgusted and bad, that there's no possibility of them doing a sin because their Yetzer Hara, their Nefesh Bahamis is completely subdued, and the question is only how transformed does the Nefesh Bahamis become. But no, a Beinoni has full-fledged Nefesh Bahamis, full taivas for everything that they might have. They might have a weaker Nefesh Bahamis in their nature. Their animalistic soul might not be as powerful as someone else's, but ultimately they always have an Nefesh Bahamis. So long as they're Beinoni, they'll always have an animalistic soul that's pulling them in some direction. What it is that makes them a Beinoni is the fact that they don't follow the Nefesh Bahamis. The Nefesh Bahamis might try to pull them somewhere, but they ignore it. They fight against it. As it says that a little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness, and so too the godly soul. The light of the godly soul is able to push away the darkness of the animalistic soul, the darkness of the Yetzer Hara, and a person, a Beinoni, is able to withstand these temptations from the Nefesh Bahamis because of the intellect of the Nefesh Elikis. It is because of this detail about the Beinoni that the Beinoni will never ever do anything wrong. They'll never do anything, in a sense, bad. As in, they'll always have the desire for it, and the desire might even come into their mind to disturb them while they're davening. They'll have a machshava zara, or they'll say something maybe that could be read in two ways, and maybe it'll feel like lashon hara, but they're not intentionally going to do it. The fact that they have this potential for bad, the fact that they have this natural, in a sense, leaning to bad, because they have the bad within them. They have the Yetzer Hara, and they have more generally the Nefesh Bahamis, which isn't inherently bad, but it's inherently worldly, and it hasn't gone away. So because of this, the Beinoni is really standing in the middle. Even in things which are bin adam lachavire, that, let's say, I don't know, jealousy or whatever it may be, or anger or something like that they might look at someone else, and the natural instincts, because they are a yesh, they are a human person. Human people have emotions, they have instincts, they have reactions, and if a person, slaps another person in the face, the reaction is to get angry. That's what happens. But then they'll think about it, and they'll think, like Yosef did with his brothers, that everything that happens in the world is because it's what Hashem wants, and really there's no reason to be full of hatred, and this person was only acting as an emissary of Hashem, and even though maybe like the move is to be wary of them in the future, because apparently they're a dangerous person, regardless of how much they were fulfilling Hashem's shlichus, but still, it's better to be wary of them, but not to be angry at them, because being angry at them would imply that they did something completely of their own volition without it being part of Hashem's plan, and that wasn't the case. Like Al Derech what Yosef did with his brothers, a person that is a Beinoni, that's how it'll be. They'll even be able to come to maybe being angry instantaneously, but then they'll push it away and they'll say, I'm not going to be angry. So a Beinoni is in a certain sense really perfect, but they have the full-fledged bad within them. The bad will be pushing these thoughts to the forefront of their mind. So now that we've come to here, this is the end of Parak Yud Beis, and now that we've come to here, we have the question, which is, if the Beinoni really is evenly matched, right? We say that a Beinoni is someone that doesn't have any reshim of an Avera, doesn't have any remnant of an Avera, any impression from an Avera, because if they did, they wouldn't properly be a Beinoni. They still have that effect from the Avera. They'd be a Rasha of Tevle, maybe a Rasha with a lot of Tevle, but still not a Beinoni, because they have that impression from an Avera. So the question becomes, if they're evenly matched, shouldn't they stay in the middle? What is it that makes that they do so many Torah mitzvahs? Beinonim are people that sit around in a room, sitting in one place, and from morning until night, they go out, they daven, they learn. So what is it that makes them a Beinoni? Why is it that they're able to accomplish so much good if they're, as we're saying, they're very evenly matched? So for this, we say that this is how we understand what the Chachamim say, Beinonim zev sheftan. That this one and that one judge them. That is to say, the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara judge them. They're like two judges, and they're trying to have their opinion get passed in the court case. We don't say that the Beinoni is ruled by the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, because the Yetzer Hara isn't ruling the person. Ruling the person would mean that it's influencing the thought, the speech, and the actions, and the Yetzer Hara simply isn't doing that. But the Yetzer Hara definitely has a full say, the same way that if you have a court case and you have multiple judges, each judge has a full say in what the outcome of the case should be. However, it says in the Pasuk that Hashem is Yamid Limin Evdin Leishim Shefti Nafshe. He stands at the right side of the destitute to save him from the judges of his soul. And this means that you have an Beinoni, that the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara have their own distinct opinions, and the Yetzer Hara wants the person to do bad, the Yetzer Tov wants the person to do good, and Hashem is the third dayan, he's the third judge, and he is the one that's machriya that the Beinoni should be able to do good. This is what our Chachamim tell us explicitly, that if Hashem wouldn't help us, we wouldn't be able to withstand the Yetzer Hara, because the Yetzer Hara really, really is powerful, and the Yetzer Hara really, really would be able to sway even a Beinoni, someone that's at the pinnacle of completion that a person could reach without Hashem literally making, in a sense, a miracle for them, that they could completely subdue their nefesh bahamas. In nature would have it, that a Beinoni is the pinnacle of what a human could be, and Hashem might be able to help out beyond that. But a Beinoni is, in a sense, the pinnacle of nature, complete control over the nefesh bahamas, at least to not do anything bad. But Hashem is the one that helps that it should be like this, that the Beinoni should be able to triumph over the nefesh bahamas, over the Yetzer Hara. Now that we've come here, we can answer one of the questions that we asked in Parak Aleph, which is, what does it mean that even if the entire world, it says at the end of the third parak of Maseches Nida, that even if the entire world is telling you that you're a tzaddik, you should consider yourself to be like a rasha. What does it mean? When the Alter Rebbe asks questions on it, you can see over there, the Alter Rebbe answers are very simple. You have a Beinoni. The Beinoni has literally the bad is within them in full force, and they really have the bad within it. It's real. It's not fake. It's not a false humility. There really is bad over there, and the Beinoni shouldn't allow themselves to be fooled by the world. The world might be saying that the bad in them has been ispatal, they must be a tzaddik, look at them, they're doing so many good things. And while it is possible that a person could really become a tzaddik, but a Beinoni should be wary. A Beinoni shouldn't ever rely on themselves to such an extent to say that they literally have no bad within them. No, a Beinoni, always needs to be wary. I mean, a rasha, if they acknowledge that they're a rasha, then they don't have this. But even a Beinoni, even a person that they're not doing anything wrong, but they should never allow themselves to be lulled into a sense of security, because it's always possible that the Yetzer Hara is still lurking there. The Yetzer Hara still has an influence over the Beinoni, and therefore Beinoni always needs to look at themselves like a rasha, so that they shouldn't come to doing an avera, because it's always shaykh for them. The Alter Rebbe says that with this understanding of what a Beinoni is, we can now also answer another question that we asked over there in Parak Aleph, that Rava, the great Amira, said about himself, I, for example, am a Beinoni. Abaye said to him, if you're a Beinoni, I have horrible news for you, but no one else really has any right to live. If you're a Beinoni, if the great Rabbah is a Beinoni, the Alter Rebbe says, oh, now with this, it makes total sense how Rabbah thought that maybe he's a Beinoni. Why? Because a Beinoni is someone that really, they have the bad within them, but it's possible that if they're constantly meditating on godliness, that they're going to be completely removed from the Yetzer Hara, because the godliness is going to be shining from their brain into their heart. It's going to affect their emotions, and therefore the Yetzer Hara isn't even going to have a Pischin Peh. Rabbah, we said, as part of the question, that Rabbah was constantly learning Torah, the Pasuk Pumim Megirsa, to the point that the Malach HaMavis wasn't able to kill him, because he was so constantly involved in learning. So Rabbah, of all people, it makes sense that he would think maybe he's a Beinoni. Why? Because he never had a moment that he wasn't meditating on godliness. He was always learning Torah. So because of that, he thought that maybe if he stops learning at a certain point, then he'll start appreciating his taivas. He wasn't going to stop learning, because no reason to, just to test the hypothesis. But ultimately, it was possible, as far as he was concerned. Maybe he was a Beinoni. Now, the last point that Alter Rebbe addresses in this parak Gimel, is that seemingly you would say this avodah of the Beinoni, that when they're devoted to godliness, they're completely given over. Seemingly, it's not true. And why do I say seemingly it's not true? Not that at the moment it isn't true, but it's not what a person is. A person, the Beinoni, really, they're someone with nefesh b'hamis. Really, they're someone with taivas, with a shaykhis to the world, and a shaykhis to bad. This is what a Beinoni is, apparently. So then you would almost say that the meditation by davening, the meditation by Kriya Shema, the meditation by learning is a costume. It's a guise to be put on. So the Alter Rebbe says, in a certain sense that is true. But the Alter Rebbe says, it's like the concept that it says, Sfas emes tikun la'ad, that the edge of truth is established forever. And that is to say that a Beinoni, maybe the Aveda will pass, but ultimately there's a certain element of truth to it which exists, because the Beinoni does really have a nefesh alikis, and the nefesh alikis really does care to that extent. Now maybe as far as the day goes, it'll pass and it'll change. But ultimately, this Aveda of the Beinoni, as far as where they're holding, as far as their level, this is the truest Aveda that they can come to, as far as they go. Because really, it would be nice if they would be completely devoted to godliness, but that's not who they are, that's not how Hashem made them. As far as where their level is, it has that element of truth to it, because it is real, it is from the Nefesh Alikis, it's true, and as far as their level, it's the best that they can come to. So as far as Aveda goes, as far as their level goes, it is considered an Aveda of truth. This is more of a tangential kind of point. There's a lot to be elaborated on over here, but I think that concludes the summary for this week 5, if I'm not mistaken, of the Tanya summaries.